welcome to Live Mike. I'm Joni Sutter for Nutmeg TV. Stay with us over the next hour and participate in this live call-in show all about public safety. We've invited as our guest today Lieutenant J. Paul Vance, who is with the Connecticut State Police. He is the commanding officer of the Public Information Office of the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, from driving with your cell phone, tailgating, the K-9 Division, missing persons unit, and much, much more. But the most important thing is you get to ask the questions. So hello, Lieutenant Vance, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Glad to be with you.
There's so much to talk about, and we have people that have already emailed in, and we also have folks that have called and are on the phone lines waiting for you to take their calls. But I think it's important that people know some facts about you that maybe they don't know. So I'm going to just read some really wonderful things about you. 40 years, I understand, with the Connecticut State Police. Yes. Familiar face to Connecticut audiences, Lieutenant Vance has been a Connecticut State Trooper for more than 39 years, actually 40 years. He and his wife, Meg, have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. During his state police career, Lieutenant Vance has been assigned to patrol at both Troop L in Litchfield and Troop I in Bethany. He was assigned as a specialty K-9 handler, a SWAT team member, a helicopter medic, and to other various specialized assignments. Lieutenant Vance has served as a state police major crime squad detective and resident state trooper in charge of all police service in the town of Prospect. He was promoted to Trooper First Class in October of 1987. He was again promoted to the rank of sergeant in March of 1988. July of 2006, he was promoted to the rank of master sergeant and then promoted again to the rank of lieutenant in October of 2006. He presently serves as the commanding officer of the State Police Media Relations Public Information Officer, and as commanding officer, Lieutenant Vance is the public voice and face of the State Police. He works with a team to ensure that all public safety issues are announced and publicized to the people of Connecticut through the print and media broadcast. You certainly have immersed all aspects of the Connecticut State Police, and for a very long and successful career. I want to thank you very much for your service to the people of Connecticut. And I'll have to say that I can't imagine your job has been an easy one, but yet you have embraced it, and you are now in one of the most visible jobs with the Connecticut State Police.
I say that I have the best job in the State Police Department because I have the opportunity to speak about the men and women of the department that do the work every single day, and to show our customers and people of Connecticut exactly the services that are provided. And we've got some great people in this department, and that's probably why I've been here so long, is that I'm so proud to work with the men and women of the Connecticut State Police.
And we're glad to have you, that's for sure. We have a caller on line 1 who we're going to take in a moment, but thank you. But before we do, let's just start off with some recent headlines that we've been seeing, and that is kids being left in vehicles, and folks forgetting that the child is in the vehicle, and it's been very troubling for a lot of us who don't understand, how something like that could happen.
Well, it's happened, unfortunately, too often, and even in our state of Connecticut, it's happened too often, and it's resulted in fatality, and quite frankly, we don't understand. And what we've tried to do is we've tried to remind people of the dangers in the hot summer weather. Not only of a parent leaving a child in a car, which none of us can understand. We've had people come up with solutions saying, if you put your child in the car, put something important back there, like your cell phone or your pocketbook or your left shoe, but put something back there with that child so you never ever will forget that child is there. And that's one potential solution. But we also say that when you park your car in your driveway in the summertime, children are out playing, and even in Connecticut, again, we've had tragedies where children have become entrapped in the car playing hide and seek or playing games. In the summer weather, the temperatures rises so quickly, and it becomes very dangerous very quickly for children.
I saw a gentleman who had actually sat in a vehicle and monitored the temperature in the vehicle as if he were trapped in the vehicle. And it was really an interesting way to have people think about what's going on. And are there some other tips that you would give?
Sure, absolutely. You can't forget that child. You have to figure out a solution to that. If you're taking your child to daycare, you're taking your child to wherever. If you're running in the grocery store or the convenience store to get a loaf of bread, that child should not and cannot stay in that car. It's simply too dangerous. When you have your car parked at home, lock it. Check it thoroughly and then lock it so that you can't have an accident with a child crying in it. Absolutely.
Which is a great idea. All right, let's go to our first caller. Our caller is Trudy from Bristol. Hi, Trudy. Welcome to Live Mike.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Go ahead with your question.
Hello. Good evening.
Hello.
Lieutenant Vance, I want to thank you for your attention to the road markers. The markers so that a person who wants to turn left can move over to the left and wait there while others pass. It does keep the traffic moving, and we saw that in Maine and loved it, and we're very happy it's in Connecticut now. Thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
And also my question, what is the law regarding the trucks, the tandem trucks, and their passing on the highway? We see more and more of them, and I thought there was a law that there couldn't be tandem trucks, but I'm probably mistaken about that. But it bothers me when we're riding, and they're passing either on the left or right, and I don't know what the law is.
Yes, ma'am. You know, tandem trucks are, first of all, truck drivers in general are professionals. They really, really do a great job. Their equipment is in good shape. And tandem trucks, they're a little frightening because of the size, the mere size of those trucks. Even for you as a motorist to pass a tandem truck, there are many times when you become intimidated a little bit. But those truck drivers are pros. The one thing that I have to say, it's very, very important with any tractor trailer or tandem trailer vehicle that's on our road or highways in our state, those folks cannot stop on a dime. And for a motorist of any kind to pull in front of them, to impede their flow, to make a quick adjustment from a left lane to the right lane in front of a tractor trailer truck, you're placing yourself in harm's way and you're placing that truck driver in harm's way. And so it's very, very important that we respect and we share the road with the big rigs. They're pros, they really are.
Thank you for mentioning that. I hadn't thought of that at all, but thank you. One other question, please. When you are thinking about new people coming into the department,
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a specific protocol that you use? I'm wondering what you do to encourage more young women and men to get into the department.
Well, that's a great question, and it's not a short answer. I'm going to try and condense it for you. This last exam that the state of Connecticut just gave for state troopers, we had just under 5,000 people apply. All races, all genders, you name it, and we're very proud of that. Prior to the examination, we made sure that we spent a great deal of time advertising it and encouraging people to take the examination. In our agency right now, and I don't have the exact percentages, I apologize, but we have obviously every gender, both genders represented. We have just about every ethnicity. There's one young fella, and I tease him all the time because his name is this long, and I mean that. His name won't fit on his name tag, but we call him Choke, and he's a great, great trooper. He's a perfect guy. So we work very hard to recruit and to get the best of the best, and right now we have about 70 people in training, and we're looking forward to them graduating and joining our ranks and protecting our customers as citizens of Connecticut.
And graduating from where? Is it the community college that offers the courses?
No, we have a state police training academy where we have state police instructors that will teach these young men and women for a period of about 6 months. And they live there just like a college campus, and they go to school every single day, and they work very, very hard to earn that big hat.
Well, thank you for the answers, and thank you for being on. This is ever had an opportunity to speak to someone like you and from your department. We appreciate your being there.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your
Good
call.
night.
Continue to stay with us. That is important to know, is the people that have decided to make this a career. And that was one question that I had for you,
Sure.
so I'm going to just kind of come in
Okay.
here with one of my questions. If you had to do it all over again, would you get into law enforcement?
Yeah, in a minute I would. Definitely. It's so rewarding.
Wow.
People ask me what's the highlight of your career, and they expect you to say, I caught the bad guy. And the highlight of my career was I delivered a baby. And really that to me was just intriguing. It was amazing. And there are so many stories that young men and women in our department and even veterans can tell about the good that they do for people. And that is absolutely tremendous to
So if
discuss.
you're a young person or anyone who's looking to get into law enforcement, here you've heard it from someone who's 40 years and seen just about anything that you could imagine and would do it in a heartbeat. I'm going to just read a compliment that I thought summed you up. As I don't know you. This is my first time
Yes,
getting
it
a
is.
chance to know you, and it's a delight. But Lori Rakely, if I'm pronouncing this right, from the Sun-Times wrote that you delivered a master class in how to relay information. You're composed yet compassionate, straightforward, without being robotic or wooden. You come across as a cop who views his relationship with reporters as cooperative rather than adversarial. You're more of a partner than treating them more of a partner than a necessary evil. You avoid speculation and you avoid information lockdown. And I have to say that anytime that I've watched and something's happened in Connecticut, either the highway shut down for some reason or some catastrophe has happened, and I see you come on the screen, my antennas go up and I listen. And I know that you're giving me information, and for the people of Connecticut, I think we're very lucky to have you, because a lot of times you do get that very stoic response that you see in other areas.
Sure.
And it doesn't create a sense of comfort and calm to the Connecticut people, so thank you for that.
Well, thank you. That's very kind.
We're going to go to another caller, Jerry. Hi, Jerry.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to Live Mike. You're from New Britain?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead with Lieutenant Vance.
Hi, Lieutenant Vance.
Hi, good
my
evening.
question is, I've noticed a lot more cameras on top of stoplights over the years. What exactly are these cameras being used for?
I got to admit, you've got me. I can tell you unequivocally that in Connecticut, we do not have a law in place that allows summonses to be issued for violating the traffic lights. So if that's what you're thinking, that is not in fact the case. We do have cameras on the highways, though, that they're very, very helpful to us, and believe it or not, it helps us open up the highways quicker when we have a crash or we have an incident out there, because not only do we get troopers there en route very, very quickly, but we're able to send whatever equipment is necessary to alleviate that problem just a few minutes or a few seconds earlier, just to get things rolling, so to speak, so we can open that road up as quickly as possible.
Well, that's great. That's good to hear that all those cameras are really helping out the traffic then.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Lieutenant Vance, we have a question that actually came in from Arizona.
Wow.
We had done a lot of PR for this show, and we're reminding you that this is a live call-in show. But we also are accepting your emails. So we do have one from Arizona, and this person was a Connecticut resident at one time. And the question is, ask Lieutenant Vance Connecticut State Police's plans for enforcing Connecticut's new controversial firearm regulations.
It's a good question, and quite frankly, we enforce the laws as they're written by our legislators. Our legislators make the decisions whether they want to stop on a red light or change lanes or move over laws or whatever they might be. Our legislators put a great deal of time into studying, analyzing, and determining what in fact are going to be the laws of Connecticut, including the firearms laws. The laws didn't really change all that much, contrary to popular belief. People were asked to register certain weapons, and thousands of people did that in our state, thousands. And quite frankly, I'm not pro or con or taking a side or anything else. I'm simply saying that our responsibility certainly is to enforce the laws in the state of Connecticut, and no matter what the law is, that's what we're sworn to do.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yes.
All right. I wanted to give you an opportunity before we take our next caller to mention something that I didn't know about, and so maybe you don't know about it either. And that is that the Connecticut State Police is the third largest in New England.
That's correct, yes.
And you have services that you provide to municipalities, for example.
That's very true. That's very true. What's interesting about, if you take the map of the state of Connecticut, just cut it in half. There are 169 cities and towns, and the state police are responsible for law enforcement in almost 50% of all those communities that don't have a police department or we have a resident trooper program. So we're responsible for primary law enforcement, and that means we respond to any call for assistance, any police service call, anything at all in those communities. The other 50%, if you will, are policed by local municipal police departments. Now, not everybody has all the tools in their toolbox that are necessary for investigatory purposes or for law enforcement purposes. For example, our aviation unit. We have helicopters that are available for search and rescue. They're available for numerous things, and I won't take a whole lot of time describing it, but the aircraft are available to any of those municipalities that may need it. Not everyone can have a bomb squad or dive teams or even canines. And certainly if a community needs a bomb squad, a dive team, canines, undercover officers, whatever the case might be, the chief of police simply calls the state police department and we provide that service to them. We'll work side by side with them and help them with whatever they need. Many times you'll see our major crime squad, which is Connecticut CSI, and my hat's off to those men and women. We have 3 major crime squads in Connecticut. They do outstanding work. They truly do, all across Connecticut. And not only do they help police our communities, investigate our major crimes, but they'll go into a community that has an unfortunate incident and they'll assist and work and go side by side with those local departments to help them in any incident they may encounter.
Some of the divisions of the state police: auto theft unit, business strategy unit, community policing, firearms task force, motorcycle unit.
Yes. Yeah.
Underwater search and rescue, as he talked about, forensics laboratory, and we're going to talk about the surgeons. I was doing some research for tonight's show, and Lieutenant Vance, you oversee the chaplains as well as the surgeons with the Connecticut State Police, and I'm thinking you have a team of surgeons.
We do.
And let's talk about them for a minute before we
Sure,
take another
absolutely.
call. What are their responsibilities?
Well, one of the key responsibilities that our state police surgeons have is, let me give you an example. We have tactical teams, and on our tactical teams, we have trauma surgeon that's assigned to that tactical team. Because when the tactical team is called out, it's a serious situation, it's a dangerous situation. Not only is that state police surgeon working for and with that team to ensure the safety, health, and safety of our personnel, but for anyone else that may become a victim, we have a surgeon right there on scene. We will use surgeons in investigations when in fact we need some medical advice relative to a criminal investigation, to a death, to something that we're looking at that we may need advice or guidance or need to be steered in a direction to an expert in a particular field. And surgeons are invaluable. The chaplains are certainly another arm that we have. We have all denominations, and they really are very, very needed and useful, especially when we have the unfortunate responsibility to make a death notification. It's refreshing to have a chaplain there that has expertise in counseling and assisting in those types of things. These teams of people, they volunteer their time. I mean, all of them, the physicians, the chaplains, they make themselves available and they volunteer their time to help us in any way we possibly can need them.
How lucky we are.
We are, definitely.
Let's go to Herb on line 1. Herb, thank you so much for holding. You're on live mic with Lieutenant Vance.
You're welcome.
Go ahead with your question.
Hello?
Herb,
Oh, yes.
go ahead. You're on live.
Thank you. Yes, good evening, Lieutenant Vance.
Good evening, sir.
I have both a question and a concern,
Okay, sir.
if that's legal.
Yes, sir.
And, okay, the first question I have is the law about drivers turning right on red still in effect?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I know when this law was passed several years ago, it was done to conserve gasoline when our country had a shortage. As I understand the law, the driver must come to a complete stop.
You are absolutely correct, sir.
Right,
That is the rule. That is the law. You must come to a complete stop, look all ways, and only move right on red when you can do safely and when you are not interfering with oncoming traffic. Those are two criteria. Then you can make that right on red.
Yeah, and I think another important thing is to make sure there's no pedestrians trying to cross the street at that time.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct, sir.
I do see that, and I see this law broken so many times, and I just wonder if some kind of a little blurb in the newspapers once in a while or something on TV, a little clip, it might be good to remind people that might have been born before the law was passed, just so they know there is a law.
You're absolutely right, sir, and I'm as you speak, I'm writing it down, and that's a great idea. And we do that occasionally from my office, where we have a tendency to remind people or try to remind people of the laws and of issues as they arise. And that's a great idea, because I have had the responsibility of writing tickets for that myself, just because it puts people in danger, and I think a lot of people take it for granted. Right on red, you got to watch out for other vehicles, pedestrians, and it's absolutely necessary. Thank you very much. That's a great idea, sir.
And the second thing I have is a concern.
Yes, sir.
About some of the mock highways, and I call them mock highways. An example is Route 72 in Bristol and Plainville, where the road looks very much like a highway, but there are traffic lights to allow crossing traffic at certain intersections to flow through. Last week I was coming through one of those intersections. I was going north, coming from a little shopping area over in Forestville.
Yes, sir.
And there was a car in front of me waiting for the light, and the person was concentrating on the green or waiting for the light to change. The light changed to green, and the driver started to cross this mock highway. But something made the lady stop, and it probably saved her life, because a 16-wheeler going about 50 to 60 miles an hour flew through this red light.
Wow.
There was no way he could have stopped, and perhaps the truck driver thought he was on a highway.
Yes, sir.
So my suggestion is to make these intersections, I would suggest that on the when the light on the mock highway turns red, add a delay to the light change on the crossing road. Let the signal remain red for 10 or 15 seconds after the red light has come on the mock highway. That should give time for the lane to clear and give the vehicle in the crossing road safe passage to move through the intersection.
So delay in the change of the light. That really is a good idea. So that's something that I will pass on to Department of Transportation, because that's their area of expertise and responsibility. But that's a great idea. And you know what? If I can, I thank you for that, because we don't have all the solutions to all the problems.
Oh, I know.
And it's really good and refreshing to talk to people that have great ideas and suggestions, and believe me, it's not just lip service. I'm writing them down, and we're gonna do something about it, sir. Thank you very much.
I can see that you are, and if anything like that, if it saves a life, it's well worth the time and effort.
You're absolutely right,
Yes,
sir.
it is. Thank you so much for your
Well,
call.
thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I have to just mention before we go to Don on line 2, who's holding, that public feedback is very important for the Connecticut State Police. Their mission statement is committed to protect and improve the quality of life by improving enforceability, regulatory things, scientific services, yada, yada, yada. But professionalism, respect, integrity, dedication, and equality. And they have on their website a how are we doing section. So if you have an example of maybe an idea that you have or something you just want to run by, shoot it off to fill out the form. It's very easy to do, and somebody will take a look at it. So
Yeah, we would encourage
you for
that. We truly would encourage that.
That's nice to see
Yes.
that on the website. Thank you. Don, thank you for your call.
You're welcome. My question is, would going to school like to a community college and getting a degree in law enforcement, would that help you in any way in the state police?
Yes, sir, absolutely. And I can say from personal experience watching young troopers come aboard our agency. As I said, we have a written examination, which is a basic aptitude test, but there are other steps of the examination process that a person must go through before they're chosen. And it seems as though people that have attempted to further their education, work towards an associate's degree, took some college courses, associate's degree, bachelor's, master's. Quite frankly, we have people apply for the position of Connecticut State Trooper that have their law degree, their master's degree. And that all is very helpful. As you know, it helps people think. I mean, that's truly what education is, helps people think. And they seem to do very, very well. So we always encourage young people, and we start in the high school level where we'll go and talk to high school students and we'll tell them a couple things. One is to continue your education if you want to be successful in law enforcement. And the other thing we'll tell them is remember the consequences of your actions, because a mistake you make at a young age could impede your ability to become a municipal officer, a trooper, an FBI agent, or what have you, or for that matter, anyone that needs any type of professional license. And it's been very beneficial, I think, to our recruiting program.
Absolutely, that old adage that moms told us years ago about,
That's right. That's
because it'll come back to haunt you. And I suppose that goes for social media too.
Yes.
Watch what you post. I know as employers, even for Nutmeg TV, we always go and we check people that are applying for employment.
Yes.
So, be careful what you post. Pretty much know that whatever you're going to post can be seen by anybody. Before we go to our next caller.
Another question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Don.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Another question. Is there an age limit to becoming a state trooper?
No, that's unconstitutional, and quite frankly, when I was a field training officer sergeant several years ago, I had a group of troopers that graduated from the police academy, and the oldest trooper was older than me, and he was 53 years old. And he came aboard after a career in education as a dean of students in education. Great guy, great trooper, hard worker, and very, very successful.
I didn't realize there was no. Don, did you realize there was no age limit?
No, but I'm not going to apply.
That's a surprise to me that there's no age limit, because I was going to ask you that question. What if somebody wanted, maybe they always wanted to be a police officer,
Sure.
but they didn't, and they went on, they had their family, and they entered another career. Are there things that regular folks can do to help out? I know the missing persons unit has
Sure.
a lot of work that needs to be done. Are there things that citizens can do to work along with law enforcement?
Well, you'll hear me say many times when we have a serious crime or we have an incident that we're working on that we can't do it alone. We're not magic people. That, in fact, we do have tools in our toolbox. We have techniques we use. We have certain investigatory things that we do. But we rely on the public more than you can believe. And I'll say many times, you're our eyes and ears. You are our eyes and ears. You'll see things, hear things, know things that will help us many times complete a puzzle of an investigation to form a complete picture. And that's so helpful.
And I think you have a little tip line, because on the website I noticed that if you see something or you think that something doesn't look quite right, you can just send a little tip in.
And that's a great point too. People should realize that we in law enforcement, that we work for you. You're our customers. And if something makes you uncomfortable in your neighborhood, something you see on the highways, anything, you come out of the bank and you say, gee, that looks suspicious. Call the police. Let us investigate. Let us come and put your mind at ease. You can leave. You don't have to give us your name. But we're in the business of preventing crime too, more so than having to solve it. And people working with us and being our eyes and ears are really instrumental in helping us with that.
That's good. Don, thank you for your calls.
You're welcome.
Have a good
nice
night.
evening.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, you too. And that's very important to work together. Before we go to our next caller, we had another email that came in about tailgating. Now, tailgating's an issue. I know it's an issue for you.
Yep.
There's a project, Stop Tailgating, You're Too Close. And maybe you want to tell us about that. I guess 42.7% of accidents in the central part of the state last year was due to tailgating.
That's absolutely correct. We did a study because we needed to look at accidents and just take, again, the map of Connecticut. We were looking at the central part of Connecticut.
Okay.
And we studied that and we determined that just a little less than 50% were tailgating accidents. People following too close. What happens when you follow too close? You can't stop on a dime. Okay, people are rushing, getting too close to the person in front of them, not paying attention, and they rear end. You get property damage, you get injury and serious injury sometimes, and even fatalities, which is it's just unacceptable. So we did a project, and we worked, and we measured, I think it was March of 2013 against March of 2014, and we were able to reduce the accidents significantly by severely enforcing that rule, and it worked.
I had read that cruisers will be measuring speed as well as distance.
Yep.
And that there's a fine of $132 if you are caught tailgating. The offense can bring a ticket.
Correct.
So troopers weren't targeting tailgating before, and I'm going to read our email question. Almost every time I drive, I find the car in back of me is following too close. I know most Connecticut drivers don't pay attention to proper following distance. What form of action are you, the state police, and local departments taking in order to stop tailgating drivers? That's from Bristol.
It's actually a very simple ticket to issue, quite frankly, because especially when you see a family in a car and you see someone on the highway or on a secondary road following very, very closely, and you know they can't stop if they needed to in an emergency. And we say that all the time. You know, leave enough space so that if you have an emergency ahead of you, you're able to stop and not interfere with the car that's in front of you. By following close and pushing them along, if you will, you're not going to get where you're going any faster.
And once you're hitting 55 miles an hour, you have to even increase that distance.
Absolutely.
If I'm correct there.
Yeah,
so,
you are right. Absolutely correct.
You know, and so I saw a guy this morning behind somebody else who was bored. So he's going weaving in and out, not in and out of traffic, but just behind the person in front of him. And that can be misinterpreted too as road rage. So, you know,
Yes.
or start road rage because somebody's getting nervous now that somebody's on their butt. And what do they do? And it can create all kinds of problems.
It could, and certainly we would remind people to, many times, riding in the left lane, okay, you're impeding the flow of traffic, and people get frustrated, and we understand. You know, everyone wants to get where they're going, but certainly if you can move over a lane, get out of the left lane, allow people to pass, and get ahead of you.
Get ahead of you. That's
it's
important
safer.
too. Yes. Okay. Thank you for holding callers. We're going to Debbie in Southington. Debbie, hi.
Hi. The first thing, there's two things I want to say.
Yes, ma'am.
Lieutenant Vance. The first thing is thank you for doing such a tremendous job in the state of Connecticut.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It's very kind.
And the second thing is I'd like to say thank you for being on Nutmeg TV, our community access channel, and to give us a chance to talk to you and get to know you better.
Well, I appreciate that, ma'am, and you know, I appreciate the opportunity that Nutmeg has given me to come and talk to the people of Connecticut. I've said a couple times tonight, and I truly mean this, and I'm speaking on behalf of all of our troopers, that you folks are our customers. We want to make sure that we're serving you and providing you the best public safety that we're able to provide, and hopefully we're achieving that goal here in Connecticut.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. My question is, do you have any tips for keeping our homes safe?
Yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up, because especially this time of year, and a lot of people don't realize that when law enforcement officers are out on patrol, they're not just driving around. There's a thought process to patrol duties, and they might be in your neighborhood because they had gotten reports of suspicious people or vehicles, or there had been a theft in the neighborhood. And certainly what we need to do is we need to be able to visually see your house. That's one thing. Visually see your house and visually see your number. So what do I mean? If you have bushes in front, if you have things that are blocking the number on your house, have somebody trim those. Get those trimmed down so that we can visually see your house. If you're going away, pretty obvious, but you know, stop the paper, stop the mail. If you're going to the store for an hour, don't leave your garage door open. Your garage door, empty garage, signals that no one's home.
Sure.
If you're home and you get a knock on the door, first of all, be careful who you open the door to, number one. But number two, if you do open the door and it just doesn't seem right, someone's looking for Mr. Jones who lives at 14 Main Street and your house is on 29 Main Street, there's something missing here, there's a problem. Report it to police. Call them and just say, this just doesn't look right, and let them come and investigate. The last thing I would suggest, and certainly neighbors take care of neighbors. They truly do. And it can be unofficial. There's a lady that lives in my neighborhood she's the best policeman I know because she knows when I come and when I go. She literally will say to me, I saw someone stop at your house. And so what I'm saying is, watch out for your neighbor's house, and don't be afraid to say to your neighbor, hey, keep an eye on my house and let me know if you see something that you don't like or makes you uncomfortable. Those little basic things can really enhance safety at your home and in your neighborhood. And at night, actually all the time, lock your doors. Lock your doors.
Yes.
Keep your screen door locked in the summertime, even though you have your door open. It's just a little less temptation for someone to come in and take something from you.
Okay, well, thank you. Those are great things, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
ma'am.
calling from Southington tonight. We appreciate it, Deb.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
All right,
you.
have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye. Before we go to our next caller, and thank you for being patient on the lines, and for those of you who are sitting home with a question for Lieutenant Vance, please don't be shy. Call in, and you can talk about anything you'd like. We had talked about home invasions and burglaries because recently there was a story, actually July 24th, a Columbia home invasion. There's a burglary that happened in Killingly. These are things that we hear about on the news, and we get nervous and we want to keep our homes and families safe and secure, and at the same time we don't want to be living in fear.
Sure,
We don't want to
absolutely.
be this glowing target out there, saying, I'm not home, here's
Right,
the garage door
right.
open and up. So remember those tips. Make your number nice and clear and clean. And it is true, I live in a rural area of Connecticut, and even still that the houses are farther apart, you get to know, coming and going back and forth to work and driving around and doing errands, you get to know what's what at a
You
certain
do.
house.
You absolutely do.
Your instinct kind of kicks in when something looks awry. And so I guess the thing
Yeah,
is
a neighbor
to
calling a
report it.
neighbor saying, gee, you have a green car in your driveway. Is that visitors? Or and someone might say, what are you talking about? And so it's just communication, and it really can, the key is prevent a crime from occurring.
Prevent. Thank you. All right, we're going to another Deb in Berlin. Do I have your name right?
Yes, in Berlin. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. My name's Debbie as well.
Debbie as well. Thank you for your call tonight, Debbie. You're with Lieutenant Vance. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you.
Hello, Debbie.
I just wanted to ask a question. I know that obviously being in Connecticut, one of the most important issues of our time and in this location is, of course, the fact that in December of 2012, Connecticut was terrorized by the story of the Sandy Hook school shooting, of course.
Yes, ma'am.
On that morning, you had told us that you would be thoroughly searching, of course, every nook and cranny of that school, to make sure that everybody was cleared out immediately. And I was just wondering how we can prevent this from happening again. How was it that Sally Cox and Barbara Halstead reported being stuck in that front office for 4 hours?
Okay. Well, I can tell you that our primary responsibility, and I would suggest take a look at the case and read the entire case, which is available online. But our evacuation of the students and of the faculty and all the people in that facility was primary and was done by many people, many teams. And you're absolutely right. There were two administrators that secreted themselves and were able to secrete themselves for a while, an extended period of time, in a portion of the school. I'll just leave it like that. And they stayed there until they were absolutely sure that as we were searching, that it was law enforcement that was searching, and law enforcement that was going to evacuate them and make them safe from that facility. We were very fortunate. We had some very good people there, not only state troopers, but federal agents, local officers, to achieve and do what we need to do to evacuate people. So I'm very proud of the work that all law enforcement did on that terrible, tragic day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's so scary that they could be stuck there for so long,
Yes, ma'am.
But they stayed where they felt that they were safe until
Yeah.
they were certain
Till
that
they-
it was okay. Debbie, we thank you very much for your call and invite you to stay with us for the next 20 minutes for the remainder of our show tonight. Thanks again. What's the hardest part of your job?
There are many things that are difficult, and I wish I could just narrow it down to one. Certainly, making for any trooper to make a notification about a death is very, very tragic, and it's very hard to do. A husband or a wife or a teenager that was out for whatever reason and the tragedy occurred. That's hard. It's difficult. Sometimes it's difficult in the business that I'm in the media relations business, to not really tell everybody everything about a crime, because it would tip off the suspect and they could get away. But I want to assure you, and I'll sit here right now and tell you, that if there was anything where a crime had occurred where the public was in danger, that the bad guy doesn't matter. We're going to tell the public that, yeah, it occurred, people are in danger, batten down the hatches, and we're doing what we can to rectify it. Those are just some issues. When you get a call as a trooper on patrol and you're sent to a home or you're sent to a crash, rolling up on a family member or relative, involved in a crash, it's scary. And making sure you go home at night. I mean, those are just all the things that you worry about during your career.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's not an easy job, and but it's a job that we certainly appreciate, those of us who are not in law enforcement, and those of you who are, something that I think is just a part of your being and you're very passionate about. And before we go to our next caller, just hang on a minute. I just wanted to talk about the aviation program, because I was under the impression that there was a helicopter. In fact, behind you we have scenes of the Connecticut State Police, and one of the scenes that we have is the helicopter.
Right.
And you're telling me before the show tonight that there's much more than the helicopter, and we talked a little bit about this morning, or earlier in the show. What else do we have for Connecticut?
Well, we have 3 fixed-wing aircraft that fly over Connecticut, and the fixed-wing aircraft do several things. Certainly, one is we transport prisoners from state to state. It's certainly less expensive and safer to do it rather than use commercial airlines when it's feasible and it's in close proximity. Believe it or not, the fixed-wing aircraft do speed enforcement from the air. And we do speed enforcement from the air, because one of the major causes of crashes, besides following too close, is speeding, losing control and speeding. So we do aerial speed enforcement with the fixed-wing aircraft. And we have 2 helicopters, Trooper 1 and Trooper 2. The helicopters are a great tool. They're a great tool for us for, great example, search and rescue. You have a child that's lost. You have a child that wanders off and is lost in the woods. We right away will deploy canine search and rescue teams, personnel. We'll activate volunteer firefighters. We'll do whatever's necessary to try and locate that child, especially when we had adverse weather conditions, freezing cold or blazing hot. The helicopter has on it an infrared system that can, in fact, detect heat on the ground from the air. And it's invaluable when you're searching for a human being. And we put the helicopter up in the air only for law enforcement purposes. You can't have a ticket to ride, so just so you know. But we do.
What if I have a camera? Can I have a ticket to ride and show what it's like up there?
But it's amazing to be able to use that aircraft, go out and have the pilots talk to the people on the ground and direct them to a location of a lost person. It could be a child, it could be an elderly person that's lost their way, or it could be a criminal, quite frankly. And we've had. We've had instances where criminals have run into the woods and escaped, and we'll put the aircraft in the air for serious offenses, and we'll apprehend the criminal. And it's amazing to hear the pilots talk to the troopers and the law enforcement officers on the ground and say, another 50 yards, bear to your left, go to the right a little bit. All right, take a sharp right. You should be almost on top of.
There.
And it's amazing when you bring that little child out of the woods and that elderly person, you saved their life. It's worth its weight in
Absolutely.
gold.
Are you using drones?
No, not at all. Not in
yet.
Connecticut.
No.
There's really no need right now. I'm not saying technology isn't going to cause us to use it, after I'm gone and retired. But we have the aircraft, and we can use the helicopter as a platform from the air if we need it for a scene or a situation. And we have a very competent, good aviation system. Our pilots are all military trained. They've all had experience in different theaters, and certainly they're very, very competent people.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. All right, Kathy, thank you so much for holding. Kathy, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much for holding. Kathy's from Farmington. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for taking my question.
Yes, ma'am.
And Vance, this may be a little off the wall, but I truly
okay.
want to know, in the winter that we had last year and how difficult it was for
Yes,
all
ma'am.
of us to get around to work or to home or wherever, I would love to know how you and the governor and the lieutenant governor get to the state armory to make the announcement that the state roads are closed, everyone stay home, stay off the roads, and there you are, safe and sound. And I'm wondering, how do you get there? Is it your Crown Victoria?
It certainly is, ma'am. It's funny in a way because we say many times that when the weather's bad, and I have friends that are educators, and I would say to them, when it snows, you get to stay home, and I have to get in my Crown Victoria and drive to work and go out and help people that need to be out there. It's important, and a lot of times we take for granted, and I'll take a certain profession and say, the medical profession, doctors, nurses, technologists, people that work in hospitals and what have you, even in the bad weather, they got to get out there and they've got to go and take care of their patients and work at their institutions. And we know that they have to do that. So we have to ensure that there's no one in the midst of one of those blizzards that's spun out and stuck in the snow and has placed themselves in harm's way, or had an accident, or, believe it or not, run out of gas in the middle of a snowstorm. We tell our troopers that when they go out on patrol that if it's bitterly cold, make sure you double check your patrol. Make sure you look and make sure there is no one broken down, that there is no one who would potentially be in harm's way. The governor does a great job, and I got to say that he ensures that the message gets out to the people of the state of Connecticut when we have inclement weather. And he really does a good job, he and the lieutenant governor, in articulating safety issues. And it helps us tremendously because when the governor says, stay off the roads, people listen to him. And it helps us because I got to tell you, I've driven 12 or 15 miles an hour on the highway trying to maneuver my way through some of the treacherous weather we had this year, just to get to locations that I have to get to, or to check areas of road or highway that I'm assigned to.
Well, thank you for your call, Kathy. And I guess even as an employer, I know that we look to the Connecticut State Police and the governor's office to help us make those determinations, because it's difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
You're thinking, should I send people home? Should we require people to come into work? And that helps us because you're out there and assessing the conditions, and that helps us make better decisions. Thanks again, Kathy. Stay with us for the rest of the show.
Thank you.
Will do, and thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good night.
Good night. Missing Persons Unit in Connecticut. We talked a little bit about Amber Alert before the show and Silver Alert, and there were some things that I wasn't aware of about the Amber Alert. So maybe can you tell us the differences? And then I'm also asking, I believe Amber Alerts are for children, but what about a missing elderly person or someone that wanders off? What kind of alert systems do we have in Connecticut?
Well, I think what's important is and thanks for asking that question, because it's kind of near and dear to my heart, if you will. An Amber Alert, when it's issued by the state of Connecticut, is not taken lightly. In other words, we don't just arbitrarily issue that Amber Alert because a child is missing. There are certain criteria that need to be met. One is the age factor. It's got to be, a child has to be under the age of 18. But the real key to an Amber Alert is that child's life is in danger. And that's the red flag. So I would simply say to your audience and to the people of Connecticut that it's important, if you hear an Amber Alert, if you're watching television and you see that message that goes across your TV, and that, I call it that nauseating sound that tells you there's a problem, pay attention, because there have been many Amber Alerts right here in Connecticut. And I think the number is 18, but I stand corrected. It may be 19 or so, but it's right in that neighborhood. And we, many times, will find that child because of information that's given to us or called into us by motorists, by passing motorists. Because when an Amber Alert occurs, the overhead message boards are lit up and they tell you, here's a car we're looking for. If you see it, dial 911. Okay. Again, it restates it, it's an emergency. And people make those reports. People were watching on the news. I know of one where children were taken and a family saw it on the news, saw the car on the news, and all of a sudden that person showed up with the children at their residence. The individual went to another phone, called police, and protected those children, saved those children. So that's very important. The silver alert is for, people think it's just for elderly, and it's not. It's for anyone over the age of 18, okay, who may have a medical condition. It's anyone 65 or older who may suffer from dementia or are just missing for no known reason, so they don't fall through the cracks. And we send it out to all the media in the state of Connecticut so that they can utilize it in the area, the city or town, local newspaper, radio station, or what have you, according to how they feel appropriate. And it's very helpful. It truly is very, very helpful because, as I said before, eyes and ears are really important.
Eyes and ears all over, and that does make it really easy. And let's talk about the Connecticut Missing Persons Unit for a minute. And callers, please stay on the line. We'll be right with you. The cases dropped from 243 to 166 in a 2-year period. And there are detectives, I'm reading an article that was in the New Haven Register, that detectives are solely focused on solving missing person cases. And you were saying that the State Forensic Lab and other law enforcement agencies come together to resolve these unidentified cases. And can we talk a little bit about that? And what are the cold case playing cards that they refer to that prisoners, I wasn't aware of that, the prisoners inmates have distributed to them?
Yes. Yeah, that was a project. It was a federally funded project where prisoners were given playing cards, and they had some cold cases on them. We were looking for cold case information, and believe it or not, there's some people in prison that are doing their time, but genuinely want to come back into society as positive citizens and contribute to society. And we've gotten some tips on cold cases from inmates that have helped us solve cases. Our missing person detectives are phenomenal people. They truly work their hearts out, and they work very, very hard, not only on cases within our agency, but they work with municipal departments, giving them that expertise because they have that specialized training in missing persons. And again, across the country, there are remains, if you will, or deceased people that have never been identified. And these missing person troopers work with medical examiners, forensic laboratories, they get DNA samples, they work with families, they look at cold cases that we have of people that have never been located, that are missing right here from our own state. And they do everything they can to try and locate those people, if you will.
Absolutely.
And it's hard work. It's very difficult work, but certainly when they can bring closure to a family, it's very rewarding.
And that's what I was just going to mention, is that closure.
Yeah.
That closure is very important to a family.
It is.
And so they're able to move on. Okay, we're going to go to Steve. Steve, thank you so much for holding. Hi, you're live with Lieutenant Vance.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I've actually been thinking about something for a couple of years now, and I didn't know where to ask, and so this is the perfect venue, so thank you to Nutmeg TV.
Yes, sir.
I've been noticing on the highway, when it's raining heavily and you're driving, more and more people these days don't turn their lights on, and I don't think people realize that when they have like a white car or a silver car, they just blend right into the horizon.
You're absolutely correct, sir. And I have to say, it's a violation. It's over a $100 fine for not turning your headlights on. The law is very clear, and it says when you have any inclement weather, anything fall from the sky, and I'll say rain, snow, whatever it might be, sleet, if you turn your wipers on, okay, your headlights must go on. And we even take it a step further in advising people that when you have even overcast skies where it's a threatening rain, you see it coming, you know it's coming, don't wait for it to fall. Turn them on and make yourself more visible. It really does help the other guy, if you will. It's a good defensive driving technique, and quite frankly, it's a law in the state of Connecticut.
Do you see it happening more and more lately, or?
We do. We see it happening occasionally, and quite frankly, what we'll do is we'll go on shows like this, we'll put out press releases, we'll try and enlist the media's help, if you will, to remind people, because many cars today automatically the lights will go on when you turn on your wipers.
Right.
But there are many of, like my Cruiser, I got to remember to turn my headlights on. It's just one more safety buffer that we have, if you will, on the roads and the highways of Connecticut, making yourself more visible to the other guy.
Right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Great
Thanks
question.
for watching.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for calling in.
Bye-bye.
I have another email that we got from Bridgeport, and I'd like to read that because we're running out of time. So if you want to get your call in, do so now. This is another Steve from Bridgeport. I have been stopped by police officers for open carrying my handgun. I didn't know you could open carry in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
One time in front of my 5-year-old daughter. On some occasions, once they run my permit, then I'm okay. But one time the officer just wouldn't let up. My daughter was crying, my wife was getting upset, and then I was arrested for breach of peace. The charges were dropped. What are you doing to help inform local and state police officers of a person's right to open carry in Connecticut? And how can those who do open carry prevent the breach of peace situation?
That's a question that I would have difficulty in answering. I mean, if someone feels threatened in Connecticut for any reason, they should call the police. They should call us and get us involved, if you will, state, local, what have you. I carry a weapon all the time, okay, and troopers in Connecticut carry weapons all the time. The only time we, quote, open carry is when we're on duty in uniform, fully recognizable, so people know that we're law enforcement officers. People get concerned when they see weapons many times, and I'm not against weapons, and I'm going to sit here and tell you that right now. I'm not against weapons, but when people get concerned, we have to come out and check. It's just like if someone's on the highway and they see a car that's going back and forth and they think it's a drunk driver, and they call and they report it. We get there, and it's a person who's having a medical emergency, a diabetic incident or something.
Seizure.
Yeah, and certainly that person did the right thing by calling. They prevented a tragedy from occurring. The same thing holds true if someone is concerned with an individual who has a gun. People become frightened and they call law enforcement. We in law enforcement know what the law is. We simply would ask for cooperation that, when we get called to investigate, we have to investigate.
And that's a good thing.
Yes.
Along those lines, if you're a witness of a crime or an accident, what should you do? So many people say, I don't want to get involved. I don't know if I really saw something. Or am I going to have to, am I going to be part of this whole thing now? I'm sure those are things you hear all the time. What would you say to someone who...
We say to people, especially victims or witnesses, we say, put yourself on the other side of the aisle, if you will. This happened to, whatever this might be, happened to you or your family. Would you want someone to come forward and help explain the situation or help formulate that complete picture? And certainly, we would encourage people to become witnesses, to talk with law enforcement and not be intimidated by that. But certainly if you know something, if you see something, you can always call anonymously and help law enforcement. You can always give that little bit of information that you might have. And it might allow a law enforcement officer to complete that picture and solve that crime or investigate that incident thoroughly and completely.
Thank you. We have 90 seconds left. Oh my gosh, the time went by so fast. I just want to let you know that Connecticut State Police Trooper took first place at the K-9 Olympics. There were 35 teams there.
Very proud of it.
Some were from the Department of Corrections, some were from the Boston area, some were local police teams. They got it. And
terrific.
Their names, let's
Trooper
see, Leary.
Trooper Leary.
And his dog Elvis. So congratulations,
Yes,
that's awesome.
That was terrific.
The Connecticut State Police also has these tips: identity theft, safe seniors, driving under the influence, all kinds of topics for public safety available to you, front and back, nice little cards that you can just keep at home. And
they're on our website too.
They're on the website too?
You can download them and use them. We encourage people, read them. It gives you great information, and it's helpful in safety, in public safety.
Wonderful. I want to thank you
Thanks
so
for having
much
me.
for
It's
coming.
great
This was
audience
delightful. And thank you to our callers for calling in. I want to thank my staff. I don't have, I know you have a great staff, but my staff is just the best. So thank you so much. Your support made this show possible. Thank you to the viewers and the callers who made interactive TV possible. Thank you to Lieutenant Vance for being our guest. I'm Joni Sutter. Until next time.